Did you guys know that Daniel is actually this good looking in real life too? I met him in New York
Yeah,
at the Beanstalk event. You did know that?
I've met Daniel in New York also. I think Daniel must just live in New York.
I only meet I mean, no, I can't say I only meet nice people in New York because I met Zach in Toronto, so that'd be rude, but I do meet a lot of lovely people in New York, which I've gone to, like, twice in the last, 3 years, and it's been with you guys, so
Yeah. We went to that coffee shop. I forget the name of it, but
yeah.
I forget. There was somebody else there too. Who was that? Was it Mike Gerardo, maybe? That's all right. No, it was someone else.
Part of
Anyway,
my this last November, I actually paid to go to a conference there. I was still skirting all the events around it, hanging out with everyone, but yeah.
well, okay. One thing I want to dive in on, I have no idea where you're at in your business right now, to be honest. So I know like the early beginnings.
Mhm.
It'd be cool to kind of just hear your story. Cause you and I haven't chatted in a year, plus probably. So anyway, I'd love to know like, uh, the backgrounds, and also the pre-ABRA as well, because I think that's interesting too. And then basically like how you got to this point.
Cool, yeah. I'll maybe keep because I can talk for an hour about myself if we let it run. I don't think that's the goal, so I'll keep it snappy and we can dig in wherever's interesting, but yeah, so I guess my story starts, I was an entrep I became an entrepreneur in university, had an agency, built my first software startup when Facebook pages were a big thing. This was, like, just when Facebook kind of started coming out with stuff. Then I joined my friend's design agency as, like, a product person because 'cause I'd kinda learned how to build product. I had a marketing background in school. At that time, I didn't like marketers. They were all like I went to school for marketing. They're like, "You know, you should buy a billboard." And I'm like, "I don't know, man. There's the internet out there, and that's really exciting."
We almost bought billboards the other day.
Billboards are having a revival, and there's a cool way to buy billboards, but, as the whole foundation, I think, not super exciting. So joined my friend's design agency when like mobile was a thing. I feel like it's all ancient history. Um, we grew very quickly, and then we were acquired by this company called Shopify in 2013. So Shopify was pretty small at the time. I think I'm technically was employee 300, but there was like 100 people or so at Shopify in R&D. Spent 8 years there. A lot of things happened. Got bigger than 300 people. Um, went through the IPO 2 years later and kind of a bunch of fun stuff. And then in 2021, I left Shopify, wanted to start my own thing, started running a store. I've been running my store since 2015, but I went into that full time. And then when Apple kind of screwed with ads, with was it iOS 14? I started focusing a lot on conversion rates and on my store, and then started getting carried away and kind of built the first prototypes for ABRA. So this was in 2022, and then started building ABRA first year. So basically, the idea for ABRA was we build an online store. It's just like a bunch of pages, and that it got a little bit better, but it's still a pain. I think it's a common uh, pain point I've heard Rashad kind of mention certain things of like, your website's one static version of pages. But in my business, I was focusing a lot on offers and discounts. And I had a pretty simple problem of I couldn't make a discount work on the website. Like, if I used to sell biltong, which is like South African beef jerky. And if I was like running an offer on grass fed biltong, I send someone a link, nothing happens. They'd be confused or they wouldn't see it. So I'm like, wouldn't it be nice if I was giving you a discount on grass fed biltong? You see it, you buy it. Amazing. So that's where we started. And the first year was super frustrating. I didn't have a competitor that did this. I didn't know if anyone could do this. I messaged everyone I knew at Shop. I'm like, hey, nobody does this, right? And there's no one that like build this. And they said, no. I'm like, oh, excellent. But then I learned the shitty part of that is that nobody understands you. And so I would like talk to merchants. I'm like, hey, you have a discount and you can auto apply it and then I'll see it. And they're like, yeah, I can already do that. I'm like, can you? Can you show me? And they're like, oh, no. Oh, I just don't understand you. Or like, oh, that's not possible. And I'm like, I know, that's why I built it. And so it was like the first year was like the hardest thing because like chose to build something almost like took a angle of being a PM at Shopify, like, oh, I'm going to build something very unique that no one's done. It's like technically interesting. So the first year was like a long slog. Then the second year we took this like little novelty we had around being able to change prices for people in the store. And we started building, like Shopify was starting to push people away from Shopify scripts into this new thing, functions, where you could basically make very complicated discounts. And so it was kind of easy for us because we already had all this way of mapping things, any price. And then we started doing complicated functions. And then it like kind of blew people's minds in a way. We started getting much bigger merchants coming in. They're like, oh, wait, I usually got to create this whole elaborate price list whenever I'm launching a sale. And there's no way to do it to my email list. And I'm like, okay, let me build it. Like you can just build it with a function and then it works. And that kind of just ripped a band-aid of just a totally different merchant, everyone kind of seeing where we were kind of going there. And then we grew 14x in 1 year. So that was from a nice, small kind of starting to get some traction to like pretty crazy kind of growth, working for very big merchants. And then last year we grew about 3x year over year on top of that. So started kind of with me, my co-founder. There was a design lead at Shopify and we worked at the agency before. And now we're 8 people. Um, and yeah, interesting parts along the way there of like, I thought I was going to build a venture-backed business when I started just because I'd been an angel investor for many years. It's the worst possible time to do that. Glad we didn't raise money. We had the blessing of not raising money because we kind of built it on our own and now it's like got a lot of optionality and that kind of thing. So yeah, in short, the last couple of years have been kind of bonkers, growing very kind of fast, solving like complex discount pricing, merchandising issues for very big merchants at Shopify. And playing the next level to the sport, now. So yeah.
It's awesome. It's not SaaS related at all, but your Biltong slabs were amazing.
Yeah. Yeah. The slabs are the most true to South African experience because the problem is like the not FDA, USDA does the meat inspection and like they are so picky about how dry it needs to be. Like it turns to sawdust if you listen to them. Whereas in South Africa, the experience is you walk into a butcher shop. They got meat hanging from the ceilings. You can smell it. It's fresh like a steak. They cut it to order. So a slab, you get the full experience.
Yeah, it was great.
That's amazing. What made you decide to like continue to build on Shopify?
I like building on Shopify. I think it's a bit of a romantic thing for me of like, and I even loved building on Shopify even when I left Shopify. I didn't leave Shopify, I'd be like, oh my God, I'm so done with e-commerce and whatever. Like, I think for me, everyone in my family is like, has worked in a grocery store. Like my parents owned a grocery store. I grew up in one. I was like almost the first person in my family to actually have a job. Like everyone else had been self-employed. I was like the first person in my family not to have a job. So I've always run around very like small businesses, people kind of building things up from scratch. And I think like the blessing and the curse of e-commerce in this like Shopify era is like you can have like 2 or 3 people running a business doing 10, 20, 30 million a year. And like you can just build software for them and it can do very powerful things for them. And so I don't know, that's the romantic part of it of like, I just like the upsized opportunity. Like, I mean, the thing I love building my career is I love making people money. Like, that's what I like. And I think there's just such a tight feedback loop in e-commerce where if you do something that makes people more money, it's kind of obvious, like, cool. We can kind of go from there. So I think that's all the emotional side to it. I think the negatives are like people expect tier one software. You know what I mean? They expect everything and they expect it to be damn cheap and they want all the features. It's not like enterprise where you can go and you can sell a little widget into one part of the company and they like slowly they're like e-commerce merchants get everything done at the highest level. And yeah, $20 a month sounds good. And you're like, my friend, like, so I think there's a bit of craziness there. But I think, on the more practical side of why Shopify, I think it's like the platform is reasonable. It's like reasonably well maintained. Like, you trust it. They're working on it. There are next to choke, where it's actually built on top of. I think there's proof on the business model. I think you can kind of get things up. Like, I think the macro, there's always like, I think it was like the size of business. We wanted to build something very big. I think for me, the biggest reason, I built ABRA the way I built it is like, I think anyone that knows e-commerce really well knows like Shopify's got a lot of work to do on like real enterprise, And so I think that's where Shopify's putting their chips. I want to build software for that. I think there'll be a very big market for it.
Disagree. Hard disagree.
Disagree?
Hard disagree. I think over the last 2 months, yeah, and this will be fun. Like, I'm excited that we disagree about where Shopify is headed. I don't think Shopify is trying to win enterprise. I really don't. I think that's why Toby fired his entire C-suite. Effective. I'm not trying to get clipped on that for the editor. Don't clip that. There has been a changing of leadership at Shopify, and I think I don't know if you guys saw the layoffs from yesterday or 2 days ago. Daniel, I don't know if you have friends still there who got affected, but I think actually all signs point to extraordinary conviction that agentic commerce is going to create this next wave of companies and types of merchants that Shopify wants to be able to support and grow on that wave. And I don't think they are trying to win enterprise businesses. I talk to enterprises every day, none of whom are considering Shopify. In fact, I'm not going to name the merchant, but I talked to a large merchant who said, oh yeah, we did an evaluation of like Shopify, Commerce Tools, and Salesforce Commerce, and Shopify was the easiest to say no to. And so I am not, don't get me wrong, I'm not trying to say that Shopify is not great software. I think it's great software, but I actually think that the strategy is not to win enterprise. And I'm not convinced that they will ever say that out loud, but their actions certainly don't suggest that the strategy is to win enterprise.
Yeah. I think a cop out to avoid disagreeing is where do you draw the line in enterprise? And I think, and what does drawing the line in enterprise mean? I think one thing is like
$1 billion of GMV.
that is like nowhere near. Yeah. And I think Shopify can't play there. Like, I think when like Shopify Plus came up, where like starting to charge people $2,000 a month, I think people even internally in Shopify at that time, in 2013, whatever, were like, oh, if you're doing more than $10 million, is that an enterprise? And it's like, it's laughable if you've like seen real enterprise and like, again, in the 1 billion plus category. So I think there's always been like Shopify's sense of scale has always kind of leaned, I think, smaller. I think the line that will never be crossed is I don't think Shopify will ever build anything for enterprise at the expense of everyone else. I don't think it'll ever happen. And maybe that's what you need to do to build for enterprise. Like, for so much of the time at Shopify, they're like, we don't give a shit about an RFP. If you can have an RFP, we don't want to talk to you. Like, we will not do you. You won't do that. We won't go to those conferences. We won't go to those things.
Yeah, and just to be clear, I think that there is obviously wisdom and extraordinary strategic foresight in having that view. This is like a $200 billion market cap company. Like I'm not saying it to be negative on this. I'm actually admiring the strategic clarity that says, hey, we have high conviction that let me say it slightly differently. everything with agentic commerce that has been released in the last 3 months, Shopify's name is all over it. All over. Like, I cannot think of a single press release that Shopify's name is all over in the agentic commerce world. But I don't think I could say the same thing about enterprise sales. And I think that that is a very good demonstration. And if they end up being right, guess what? They're going to win the bigger prize. And so I admire it. I'm not trying to be negative, but I just don't think they're going after enterprise. That's all I'm trying to say. Yeah.
I don't think it's the number one thing. For sure, I'll agree with you there. I think it's hard to argue it's the number one thing they are doing right now. I would say, again, my bias for only living in my little Shopify bubble for so long is like, I think of the business doing $200-300 million a year, and like, ooh, these are bigger than usual, bigger than we've seen in the Shopify world. And I would say, like, on the ABRA side, again, I spent many years building software for, the 0 to 1 million merchant, because that was the types of things we built at Shopify, because we had to build for 100% of people. So for me, looking at a merchant doing 200 or 300 million is even stretching the box on the context we have. And I think, I don't know if that's called mid-market. I don't know where that's called. I think if you're in the SaaS side, I think there's a lot of technical gaps in that area. I mean, again, this is playing to my naivety, but like, I think enterprise, it's maybe less technical. It's more the way you work, in my opinion. Tell me the nightmares of enterprise.
I don't want to usurp the convo. We should, like, I want the other guys to chime in here. Yeah, Jeremiah, I'm curious what you think.
I can tell you how I think about it, because I actually agree, Daniel, with what you're saying. It's a mindset. We literally have a optional enterprise plan at No, which is for people who think of themselves as enterprise businesses. That's for the people that want RFPs, that want all these crazy forms filled out, that want annual contracts, that want all these things. We say you are enterprise. And so that is custom pricing, and we will come to an agreement on what that pricing is. And everybody else goes into the self-serve. Here's the 3 plans you can pick from. So for us, we really do look at it as a mindset, because I have brands that are doing 50 million a year that are in that enterprise mindset, and brands that do 500 million a year that are not. And so I definitely think of it in terms of a mindset. Those ones that like think of themselves as enterprise are so challenging too. Like, we have one that signed up for us at Stamped. They installed our app in September. We haven't even had a conversation with them. They switched to Shopify sometime in 2025. They haven't even added, like, it's not that they didn't work with us. They don't have reviews on their site at all 6 months later. Like, it's just like like, things move so slowly. And this is a company that does billions a year in revenue. They're one of the top 300 stores on the internet. And it's just that is so hard to work with. Like, there's a question of like, do we even want to work with them? So I'm not going to name who that is, but but it's challenging in that context. So I very much agree with the mindset idea behind enterprise.
I mean, I think we don't have to go down the whole enterprise rabbit hole, but like, I think, and maybe a cynical way of doing it is like the fast growing merchant. I think the most fun merchants to work with in Shopify are like people that are growing fast, that know their stuff. They're like, hey, dude, if you can do something to make me more money tomorrow, I'll install it tomorrow. We'll get it going. Let's see how it works. We'll have the A/B test by the end of the week. That's chef's kiss, lovely part. I think if you were to think of a spectrum and the worst kind of view of an enterprise customer, it's like, it's somebody that's just trying to not get fired, right? That's maybe a little cynical. It's people that are making a decision to buy something. And let's say on the feature side, every feature you have checks every box, but your price is $25 and their budget is $2,000 a month. The delta between $25,000 and the $2,000 is the risk they have of getting fired. It's like, oh, there's like a big app from this enterprise that checks they do all the bullshit that we say we need. And there's $25 app. It looks like they do the same thing, but I must be doing something wrong. And if that $25 app screws us, we've got, again, billions of dollars of upside that at risk here. It wasn't worth saving that money. So I don't know. That's how I've seen it. It's a very cynical I'm an SMB guy at heart. I look at it, and not to dumb it down, but I don't know, that's how I see it. You
Putting aside the definition of enterprise, I clearly don't know what enterprise is. I'm more
know?
confused than when we first
Okay.
came into the conversation. But you don't have enterprise pricing, right? So what matters to you is the amount of customers who can afford your highest plan, and ideally that TAM increasing, right? So Shopify Plus store growth is probably a lot more relevant to you than enterprise stores on Shopify.
Yeah, for sure.
The
Do you think that's happening? Is Shopify Plus store growth in the US? Like, what is the store growth of Shopify in the US?
You know, I asked Gemini. I got a really inspecific answer. It said 126%, but that doesn't seem realistic.
I don't know the last quarter, but I know over the last couple of years they were reporting that plus growth at being above average, above the total market so far. I don't know if it's changed from the last quarters, but that's what I've heard and seen.
the the flip side of this whole enterprise thing, because Rashab, I think your business operates more this way. I actually would love to be able to service those people because once I get them signed up, the odds of them leaving are very low. Like Daniel, the one you just described, where they're like, "Yeah, I'll install it tomorrow." They're also the first ones to leave when something else comes along that's more interesting. So the enterprise ones are great. The problem that I have is not that I don't want to service them; it's that my business is not structured to be able to service them. I don't have the people. Like essentially, you need the right people in place to be able to actually service those businesses, and it becomes far more expensive to service the business that's asking for all those enterprisey things. And yeah, we get a few of those coming in every quarter, probably is what I would say that as. And they may be large contracts, but I just don't. We just say no because it's like it's not worth the cost of the headspace of trying to deal with these things. So yeah.
Is there a world where you guys sell to Shopify or Shopify builds you and just goes
Uh,
completely around you?
For ABRA?
Built around us
Forever.
like steals are like
They just build a way better discount product in Shopify. Do you think that's a potential future?
not. It won't happen fast. Maybe it happens over 5 years, and there'll be multiple steps. But I think you know, the thing we always used to say was like, you know, Shopify builds for the 80% of the use cases, and then the last 20% Shopify needs the ecosystem on. Um, it's a Pareto rule rather than like a thing. But I think the biggest thing that I've probably seen a shift from when I was at Shopify is like the discounts team, who I know quite well at Shopify now. They spend almost all their time on APIs. You know what I mean? I don't know if it's like 80/20 or that kind of thing. Because for them, like in this area of discounts, Shopify will never build enough stuff for all the weird things merchants want to ask. And if
Totally.
anything, even within the context of ABRA, so if you decide to build a competitor to me tomorrow, and you're like, okay, we're going to take one discount, we're going to go and do it. Like, listen, man, I've got like 30 customers that have these weird check boxes that need to be slotted in here because when they are doing this, they need margin control here and their SKUs need to be there. There will always be someone that needs some kind of weird specific thing there because it makes them more money, right? Like, you can go to a small merchant and be like, listen, shut up, just do 20% off and everything. You don't want to pay me more money, so let's deal with it. But when you got a merchant that's doing hundreds of millions of dollars, and if something is going to save them 5% or it's going to increase the conversion rate by 8%, those are such big numbers that it is worth them kind of investing in it. So I think there will always be some weird stuff that Shopify won't be able to completely build. So I think there'll be some part of the puzzle. Can Shopify make it easier on the storefront to do what we do? Sure. Should they? I hope so. It'll make my life easier too. Like, will they offer all the functions we have in Shopify? I don't think they'll ever do that. But I think if anything, I think probably the biggest thing I've learned in running this business is, again, I told you about that first year I had in the business where I think we was trying to sell our app for $50, $100 a month, which was, not the cheapest thing in the Shopify ecosystem, but, very cheap compared to our pricing now. Our top plan starts at $1,000 a month. when I was going around telling everyone, oh, we got this thing, ABRA can do this, I promise you it's going to make you more money. And people were bulking at $50 or $25. And they actually didn't have a problem with the pricing. I thought it was a pricing thing. I thought it was a marketing thing. But the problem was actually that discounts are so damn complicated that you need someone to help you figure it out. Like, by that, I mean, like, if you're trying to figure out how to combine two discounts in Shopify, I can give you 10 different ways you can do it. And the short answer is it depends. So, the thing, we quickly learned was that merchants actually needed help with that, especially larger merchants, because they had weirder needs and that kind of thing. So we almost reached a weird tipping point in our business that was quite scary. We were having these massive merchants. We weren't charging them a lot. And we were spending a lot of time with them. And like me and my co-founder kind of looked at each other and we're like, do we like doing this? And we're like, yes, it's fun doing this for this merchant, but can we do it for 1,000 people? No way in hell. So me and my co-founder kind of looked at each other and be like, hey, this is fun. Like, I like when a big merchant has a crazy idea of what they want to do. We can come in, we do a thing for them, we help them figure it out, and they make a shit ton of money. Big fan of that. And they'll pay us $2,000, $3,000 a month for that. That works. So I think like the biggest thing that everyone needs is a little, if you go down the thing of like, is Shopify going to build our exact tech? Are they going to build our exact features? Or are they going to offer our service? I don't think they'll offer all three of those things. And I don't think they'll offer that there. So I think we'll always have somewhere there. I think in terms of an acquisition, I think, we aren't venture backed. So we have a lot of options in what we could do in terms of exits. I think like my co-founder Ilya and I have been working together for 13 years. We like working together. We're really good at what we do. So, we do this for another 2 or 3 years. Are we open to an exit? Sure, maybe. And I think like the types of things any acquirer would build is like, we know this domain inside and out. So if there's like, anyone in the marketing stack that doesn't have a lot of leverage around discounts and promotions, we have tech expertise and like the service to tackle it. If that's Shopify and they've like really pulled on all the APIs, maybe that could happen. If that's another marketing platform, who knows? But all things on the table for the right price.
Yeah. I wonder if that's the path that Shopify would take to building into the core product exactly what you do, just acquiring someone in the space who's doing it really well.
Yeah, the hardest part of like building anything at Shopify was that you need Shopify doesn't cut corners, you know, from an engineering point of view, which can be it sounds like just a positive thing, but it can have some downsides. You know what I mean? Like if Shopify is trying to get something done, they've got to build it the right way. You know what I mean? They got to build all the primitives, have the primitives built well, then you glue it together, then you kind of launch it for the platform and for customers and everything. That's the way it works. That sounds awesome, but it can be frustrating if you're like, hey, our customers have no way to send a good welcome email. And then we're like, I could bang this out in a weekend. You know what I mean? But we're like, well, is it the right way? Because if you do it this way, then that's going to affect this. And then we don't have this infrastructure and you got to do it. So that can be the good and the bad side of building something in any big company. But I think especially in Shopify, I think the thing I loved at Shopify and that I was really quite good at is like when you have all the relationships of all the people internally and you're like, hey, I'm trying to build this analytics thing. So I know I've got to go speak to this guy in Ottawa that is doing this data modeling project and this person that's working on a preprocessor and this person that's working on like the visualization. And like, here's the merchant story. Here's the things you get very excited about. And that's what you need to do. And so I love doing that kind of stuff. And I think even just when I joined Shopify, our product team of like 10 of us, like kind of in that first year, I think like 80% were founders. Like nobody had ever been a product manager at a tech company. They were either engineers, designers, or literal founders. And so they expected people to have that accountability. And I think there's some problem domains. If it's important to get done, you really need someone that gives a shit and like is okay with like breaking some eggs to like along the way to get it done. So I think that could be a reason we end up there. Like if discounts and like the storefront stuff kind of overlapped. I kind of joke a little bit, like before I left Shopify. So I worked on marketing tech at Shopify. I built the marketing section in Shopify, and like I always had this dream of having like a single way to like automate, like if you're doing a product launch and you could pull together website changes, pricing changes, all this stuff. That was my dream of what I wanted to kind of build. And I feel like I almost wrote a brief about it, but we were like, oh no, well, the themes have to like be upgraded to themes 2.0, and then we're going to need to do this and we need to do this. That's been like 4 years now, since then. But like, you see like the new rollout stuff that Shopify is building, tied into the Sim Gym stuff. The Sim Gym thing's a better headline, but I get super excited about it. Oh, sick. There's this new primitive that they're using to power the Sim Gym thing that's going to be very powerful because you can use it as a primitive for reporting and website rollouts and that kind of stuff. So I think it would be cool to work on that again from the inside now that I've fast forward through time, got a bunch of the infrastructure I always wanted and that kind of thing. But yeah, we'll see.
Yeah, like how has your go-to-market changed like over like the last 3 years of running the company?
I mean, we have a very weird go-to-market. I mean, I don't know if it's that weird, but it's almost like exclusively, I would say, kind of partnerships driven. And I would say it's not, it has to be technical for me. So like I would describe, I mean, everyone does partnerships, and I think a lot of people do a partner strategy. For me, I always look at like, for our merchants that use us, what is the software they use and what are the problems within it? So, if we look at even just Shopify as a partnership, because we got quite a few recommendations from Shopify's MSM team. Like with Shopify, we actually kind of plant the seed of like, basically you want to find a crack with each partner. And for Shopify, it was like a lot of Launchpad. So if anyone was using Launchpad and having UX issues or pains, we could help. If they wanted to do what Launchpad could do, but only to people they send an email list to, that's us. So like over time, I like found this little crack with Shopify, and like we do so much work with Shopify around that. Another partnership that's been huge for us is like Tapcart. So like on the mobile app side. And if I was starting this company, I don't think I'd be like, oh, and we have to go into like mobile apps. It's the number one thing we got to do. But we basically found with Tapcart, like they have like such a sticky relationship with like very sophisticated brands, like discounts and promotions were just not a thing they'd had a lot of time to build. And they have some great like out of the box ones, but just like Shopify itself, there were always these edge cases. So if it was like tiered gift with purchase in there, that was like a weird little like crevice where we would help people a lot. Like when scripts got migrated, deprecated, they had nowhere to do an app exclusive. Our team built something in 24 hours, said, hey, here you go, take it. So, that's an example of Tapguide. And so we have like a bunch, we probably have like 4 or 5 partners that bring all of our leads. And I think the weirdest thing, back to your question of like, what is different now than it was then, is like, we are very bad at explaining what ABRA as a whole is. You know what I mean? There's no like billboard for like ABRA is perfect at doing this. You know what I mean? But it's almost all these weird little crevices per partner that have really clicked. And so like ABRA is something very different to all the different ways we get customers is almost the thing there. I think like, people have this tendency of like, you're doing like textbook marketing here of like, oh, we need to have a perfect brand positioning and we need one message that's absolutely clear. I'm like, fuck that. It's not that at all. You need something not well rounded. You need something sharp that like the account manager at this partner really gives a shit about. Cause like where all the magic happens is when an account manager has a problem and you're the only person that can solve that problem. They don't give a shit about your brand. They don't care about your 3 values or whatever the hell it is. You know what I mean? Like they want those crevices. So I think like, again, I'm not a marketing guy. I'm a product person at heart. So for me to give a shit about a partner, we have to do something interesting together. It has to be creating something that we can't do with someone else. That's what gets me excited. And then I think that thing is, it's not a macro hand wavy big thing. It's like very specific and small little edge. Maybe we'll have to get better at other things, but like that's been the playbook that's kind of helped us for the last 2 years. And like, I think even going into this year, we kind of aiming to do more the same of like, what are the more complicated things that like our priority partners kind of need, and that kind of thing.
I think that's such a good way to think about partnerships. It's a better way of framing the way that I think about it as well, which is like if you can solve a problem for a partner, that's better than like I'm really not into the rev share thing. There's a
Never works.
pieces for that sometimes, but the best scenario is that I actually am solving a problem for a partner that makes them not care about any financial component at all because we're making their business more successful. And I think that type of partnerships is stickier.
Yeah, I mean, this might seem like a bit of a tangent, but like, Rashad was bragging about Shopify and doing all this agentic stuff. Like, that's Shopify's product strategy. You know what I mean? They're not trying to build their own LLM. They're going to every partner that's making news about their AI strategy and saying, let's build some shit together, right? And like, then they are the platform to do that. Like, my kind of run at Shopify was all about the social commerce stuff. We can argue whether that went anywhere, but we were building integrations with Facebook, Google, Pinterest, TikTok, Snap, you name it. Whoever was excited about commerce. We weren't trying to build our own social network at Shopify. We were building, like, I used to work with, say, the guys at TikTok, and we're like, hey, what are you trying to do? What kind of new ad products can we build? We built a new integration. The press release went up. I'm not supposed to talk about the stock price, but I don't work there anymore. But you see the stock price going crazy. Plus, the plus salespeople would say, oh shit, you guys launched a TikTok integration? Like, nobody asked what it did. There's like, Shopify has the exclusive TikTok integration. That would get more customers. So I think like, that's my playbook when I was coming to ABRA of like, it's very hard to market yourself. Like, ABRA is the greatest way of doing discounts and thing. Fuck that. Nobody gives a shit. But like, if I'm on TapCart and there's this thing that's new on TapCart, it's the only way to do it in any mobile app, and you have to use this thing called ABRA to do it. Sure, whatever. Give me that. And it's how you can kind of, build a bigger narrative than yourself. So I don't know. That's the playbook. I'm going to keep playing.
Nice. When we, you guys sound super agile. What's the process of building at ABRA look like?
We have stand-ups on Mondays and Wednesdays, and me and my co-founder that speak to all the merchants and kind of manage all the sales and stuff. We determine the roadmap and we build it, and we design shit at night and we get it rolling. So it's like ABRA's like 5 engineers and myself, who's a product person, slash CEO slash salesperson. And my co-founder is he's kind of manages all our ops and accounts. And he also happens to be a very, very good product designer. So we do we try to really avoid specialization in all parts of the company. Maybe we can get away with it when we're 8 people. We got one marketer that does lots of marketing things. So that's, even they can't be kind of specialized. But I think something I always learned as a PM at Shopify was like, engineers need to give a shit about design. They need to give a shit about the merchant problem. They need to give a shit about QA, right? Like, so many companies, you can slice the way you build your product into a million things. You're like, developers that want requirements given to them and they want to just build their software, and then they want someone else to QA that. Like, screw that. Like, that's absolute bullshit. Because the minute you have people doing that, people get lazy, right? If somebody is just building what someone else told them to do, they're not going to care about why it gets built, and they're not going to, and if they have to write the code but not QA it, they're not going to care how good it is. They're not going to care what support thing. So like, this is something I kind of learned at Shopify of like, how do you make every person in your team kind of care? So I give I make my engineers write product briefs. Like, I obviously help them, but like, they need to scope the feature. They need to like define it. They need to figure out why it happens. I'll bring them the why. I'll bring them the merchant. I'll give them the use case and that kind of thing. but they got to scope of that kind of do it. And then I think from a business perspective, like I don't get to just be a salesperson. I mean, I wouldn't be a good salesperson, but like, you need to do unscalable things because like, the most powerful thing I can do for a customer is like, if they sign up for a demo, they get me, which is nice. I got a good energy, good vibes, lovely, cool. But like, if they have a feature that we don't have, you know what I mean? Like that's where I'm most interested because I'm like, oh shit, that's actually really cool. Why do you do that? You know, why do you need that? Why is that important to you? And it might be something really cool. We're like, oh, actually, we've got that feature coming out next week. Just hold on, let me see if I can get access to it for you. Or like, oh, actually, that was in the roadmap. We can change it around. Or maybe I say, you know what? That's a brilliant idea. I've never thought of that. Let's go ahead and build that. And I mean, that sounds almost like, some bullshit thing someone would say about, oh, it's so good to have a founder. Can you imagine if I have a salesperson that did that? Can you imagine you hire a salesperson tomorrow, they start going to calls with merchants and they're like, yeah, you want that feature? Don't you worry, we're going to build it next week. I'd fucking fire the guy on the spot. I'm like, you fucking lunatic, get out of here. I don't know how much fuck you guys add into things. But like, if you had a sales guy coming out of nowhere telling your engineering team what to do, you would freaking execute the guy on the spot. Like, it's insane, right? But like, when you have the founders when you have the person accountable for product and kind of involved in that, um, it's a great loop. It's an awesome part of the business because, I come to my founder and I don't go like, hey, I'm the CEO, bitch, you building this feature. That's not a good reason to do it ever. But I'm like, I just got off the call with this really fascinating merchant. I know we built this BOGOs feature. We never thought of this use case, but it's actually a very good reason why he did it this way. Do you think, and I know our platform inside and out, I know our code, I know everything's built, I know why we built it that way. And I'm like, hey, can we just change this line here and then we can do this? And then he's like, oh yeah, hands down. And then it happens in 2 hours. So I think, again, this all comes back to like business model is so important, right? Because like it would be insane for me to do that stuff if we were a company that had thousands of customers, right? Our business doesn't need thousands of customers because of how we charge, because our business model, because of the shit I want to do. Like I love doing that shit. I love doing that stuff. I want to try and do so as long as possible because I just want to build things for people and that kind of thing. So I think that's how we build things. That's how we ship things.
This might be in the nuance of different businesses, but I kind of love when our sales guy he asks questions and he cares. I think I heard this on the Operators podcast. It might have been Matt talking about how caring is a superpower because it's sort of like persistent direction. It's not just direction to like get the job done, to like check the box, but it's like direction to achieve the thing for the business and for the end consumer, right? To solve the problem, right?
Yeah. You mean you can't build anything good? You can't build anything good with people don't care. Like it's just not going to happen. You know what I mean?
Hey Daniel, what's a good outcome for you? Like, let's just fast forward 3 years. Like, what does a good outcome look like? Is it getting acquired by Shopify? Like why did you build this company in the first place? Like, what does a good outcome look like?
I just want to keep doing this. Like I like this. And this to me is like I have a really good team. I'm building really good software. It's working very well. Um like that was the thing I loved at Shopify. Like in those early days, I had like awesome people that we knew and we were building cool shit and we kind of got to do it. And I think when I left Shopify, it was just becoming too professional for me, right? Like I am not a professional manager. I would not be a great VP of product in a 10,000 person company. That's not who I am. So I kind of left. I wanted to build that from scratch here. I love what I'm doing now. I would do that again. I mean, I don't think it's like a financial thing. I don't think it's like, we need to run this forever in this instance. I'd be open to joining a company for 2 or 3 years, 5 years, like go on another run, kind of exploring or building something, especially if it's very high leverage and aligned to where we are with ABRA. Yeah, I think I want to have maximum control over things. I think like we could just like bootstrap to infinity and beyond. and just kind of grow that and keep building an awesome company. Or like, the fun part of not raising is like, if there's an awesome company that's very aligned strategically and we want to sell for 50 mil, like we can do that and we can decide to do that and we can kind of tackle that. Yeah, maybe it's a bit folksy and kind of lame, but I think again, I got very lucky in the Shopify situation, right? We were there 2 years pre-IPO. Shopify was worth less than $1 billion when I joined, right? Like, amazing run. And like, I think I kind of had like a very simplistic view when I joined Shopify of like, hey, if I can afford to buy a home in the Greater Toronto area, which seemed hard back then and is even more hard now, I'm like, I'll be blessed. And then I want to use the other half of the money to start another company afterwards. And so checkbox for achieving that and some more. But yeah, I think in terms of like the next stuff, it's like I like doing this. I love like running software teams. I love building stuff. I love software. I think it keeps getting more and more exciting. So yeah, I like doing this. That box
I
might
mean,
change, but yeah.
yeah, it seems like at some point, if you, I don't know if you, yeah, if you follow Zach, but at some point you may want to move to Miami. Then you gotta do, you gotta exit this thing and then be able to afford to install a rack in your place, so that way you can work out in
That's
between
not even a
podcast
crazy.
recordings.
It's not even a crazy expense. That's like it's not that.
I know, I
That
know,
is
I
like
know.
a this is
Wait,
like a
the real question I have is how many 45 plates do you have?
4, but then I have like 35s, 55s. I got I think I have like total like 500 pounds. Something.
Okay.
Not that I ever
Wow.
touched 500 pounds, but
Yeah, I was gonna say that sounds risky, dude. I don't. Yeah, if you're working out alone, I mean, not that I'm not saying that you can't hit that weight on the lift, but it just seems like you don't want to take that risk if you're working out alone.
no. But I invite friends over for sessions, and so we always have different weights, and it's actually been one of like the biggest like social upgrades of my entire life is to have a gym in my backyard now. Like I'm probably doing like 3 sort of like hangout meetings a week, and like they're great. And then it's actually been like one of the best sort of like things I've ever bought.
You know what I just thought for a
It-
second? Most people would do this like with a beer in their hand, but they're deadlifting, Zach and his friends. I was going to ask, I have to ask, Dan, when we had PJ on from Judge Me, and thinking about maybe it's because the entirely different businesses, you have to explain your product, and your customer has to have that felt pain, whereas people going to Judge.me, they just want to get reviews up on their website. But one of the things that he said was that Shopify is prioritizing low-cost apps on the App Store. What are your thoughts around that? I mean, you're definitely not a low-cost app.
Yeah.
Shopify App Store.
I think there's a barbell there, right? It's like a barbell. Well, Zach's got us thinking about spot racks and everything. So there's a barbell where there are millions and millions of merchants on Shopify that go to the App Store, right? That is true. There are millions of merchants that go to the App Store. They want stuff as cheap as possible, near zero, right? Free installation and thing. That's what they want. And then there are plus merchants that Shopify does not have the features they need. Shopify does not have the service they need. Shopify is not a service provider. You know what I mean? Like, say, some of the more enterprise platforms where they'll do stuff custom. So that's the other barbell, right? So there's 2 barbells. Millions of merchants that want something free as possible, near zero cost. And then there's other barbell of people with very complex needs and doing that. So I think those are the 2 barbells in Shopify. I don't think very big merchants coming to, and very big, we won't get into the enterprise argument, very big merchants coming to Shopify are not looking for, yes, but you better have the cheapest reviews app or I'm not coming to Shopify. I think it's a different conversation, right? So they really are 2 conversations. I think the thing to be careful of, and the reason I say it's a barbell is it's very dangerous to be in the middle there. Because if you are selling something too expensive to the small merchants, they do not care about you. Shopify does not care about you. And by Shopify doesn't care about you, I mean, they're not going to send traffic from the App Store to you. And, or if you're like, yeah, if you're too expensive, or if you're too high touch and you can't charge enough, you're going to have a big problem. And I think this is where the issues I was having in our first year of the business is I tried to make it cheaper, but it needed touch. And so again, reviews doesn't need any touch, can have automated support, can have AI doing everything just in good docs and tackle it. Whereas like I've written, 30 different docs for all our merchants, but the thing is they'll read them and be like, but help. Help. I have this spreadsheet. Can you look at my spreadsheet and tell me how to do this? You know what I mean? And that's where you kind of need it, right? Like an MSM at Shopify can't go to a massive global fashion brand and say, oh yeah, just go and install this. Go look at these docs. You know what I mean? That kind of thing.
All right. We lost 2 people very suddenly. But dude, this was so much fun. I didn't know most of your backstory, so it was great to learn more about it. And yeah, it was great to chat. You are fun. This was a fun conversation. You made me want to buy some biltong. I was looking at your biltong brand while we were in this call, and it's like, oh man, I'm getting hungry.
I sold it. There's no obligation to buy my biltong anymore.
Oh, it's not an obligation. It was just it was making me hungry.
Yeah, biltong's lovely.
Yeah, Daniel, good to see you, man.
Yeah, good to see you, man. All right,
catch you in a bit, guys.
Cheers, guys.